Thank you, Mr. Grunendijk. Ms. Douglas, now you're up.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm going to share my screen. Okay, can you see that?
We can.
Okay, so good evening, Mayor, Council, residents. I do want to just acknowledge that what some may be wondering what we're talking about in terms of the intersection. It sounds like there was a meeting, and I don't think the staff was there, but they are going to present tonight. And I do want to remind everyone this is a concept design. So typically what happens is we'll brief the council so that you will all be aware. And then what we'll do is we go out and meet with the community and get input. So this isn't the last that you'll hear from this, but the presentation that Taylor will give tonight is just the very initial concept design with some of the recommendations that were posed. Remember that anything that is done will have to be, there has to be a funding source, et cetera. And there are some decisions that still have to be made in and around the area. So you will hear more from staff and your council members on this. Okay, so I'm going to get through this. It looks like it's a heavy agenda, but it's not. That's a little misleading because I'm going to move through these fairly quickly. So this is the agenda that will follow. And once again, we just want to wish everyone happy holidays. Of course, this is the last meeting for 2020, calendar year 2024. Okay, so sorry, my computer's moving slow. We want to do a shout out to our Deputy Chief Lanham. She was appointed to the State's Board of Victim Services by the governor. Pretty exciting. That board is obviously statewide, and it looks to ensure that victims of crime are treated with justice and dignity, and so compassion, et cetera. So we're excited that we have a member from the city of Hyattsville that will be able to serve on that board, and she'll bring us feedback as she moves through that process. So congratulations to Laura. Also want to shout out Shakira Luamar, our race and equity officer. This is a first of its kind for us. And this was a book club and they read the book, the panel read the book by Heather McGee on racism and what racism costs everyone and how we can actually prosper working together. So she had a panel of some she hosted it and then had a panel of some very distinguished people, Dr. Diane Waugh, Dr. Julie Rose, and Jim Stowe. So we're thankful for Shakira for pulling that together, and you'll see more of those in the future. And I'm going to let Laura talk a little bit about this, but this is pretty exciting. And I do want to just shout out Jim Bathurst and actually the entire communications team, because the communications team went to a conference and learned a lot about how social media influencers can help bring people to Hyattsville. And as you can see here, over 100,000 people on both Instagram and on TikTok have been watching our videos. So we're pretty excited. Laura, do you want to talk some more about that?
Sure, just not too much more to add, but I will say this is an exciting new initiative for us that we're excited. We're very excited to launch. We recognize that although our social media is awesome and it's continuously growing and we have an amazing team, sometimes, we can really expand our reach by working with different partners. So in this aspect, we work with two social media influencers. One does a lot of food reviews. So they reviewed some Hyattsville food establishments, and the other one does more of a travel profile. So both of these are just a way of the city expanding its reach, bringing more folks into Hyattsville. And Jim has done a great job, as have Cindy and Dana, in supporting this initiative. So if you haven't checked these out, the handles are on the slide. And I definitely encourage you guys to check out the reels.
We're working to figure out if there's a way for us to show some of these and some of the other great videos that our media team does prior to the council meetings, because we do want to start sharing these during the meetings while we're waiting to get started. So thanks to Laura and the communications team. Great work. And let's see. All right. District 22 legislative dinner. I mentioned that a few times, and we had that as on the agenda. But that was held earlier about 2 weeks ago. Of course, it's Senator Washington and then our 3 delegates. And all the municipalities provided presentations. Mayor Crosland presented on the bond bill request and specifically on affordable housing and what we as a city can do and how the state can support us in some new initiatives. People were very enthused about his presentation, and we had some very enthusiastic responses to it. So thank you for that, Mayor Crosland, bringing attention to something that's really important in our community. And another thanks to Jeff Ulisse, Councilmember Wozak, and former Councilmember Jimmy McClellan. If you recall, Councilmember Wozak had initially proposed that the Youth Advisory Committee work with the staff on the Gateway development and the takeover of their recreational facility. And so they met. They were advised by Councilmember Wozak and former Councilmember McClellan. And Jeff did a really good overview. And they are recommending that the city accept the recreational facility. More to follow on that. Jeff will probably bring that back at the next meeting to discuss some of the other recommendations. They also had some non-YAC members and some additional residents that attended the meeting. So we're pretty excited to keep our youth involved. And that was one that actually turned out very well. Shout out to DPW. They've got some Hyattsville street signs. They've been working really hard to repair and replace signs all around the city. And so you can see some of the locations where you're going to start seeing some upgrades to signs. This is an ongoing initiative, along with road crossings and some other things that the DPW is working on. All right, parking in Hyattsville. I'm not sure if Reggie is online, so I'll just talk to this one right now during the holidays. Usually the lots are free. We had a request to make the meters free for the duration of the holidays, so we'll see how that goes and we'll provide feedback to the council on how that went. We're also awaiting completion of that new parking garage right here on Route 1, so on Baltimore Avenue. So we anticipate that opening in the next 4 to 5 months. So we'll more to follow on that. We'll have 160 spaces there. So again, we'll give you more information as we move through that. And then Park Mobile, we learned a couple months ago that we're experiencing some data transfer delays. And I say a couple months, I believe it was September, October. Reggie's not on to verify that, but I believe that's the right date. And so what we found is that some of the people.
Oh, yes, I'm here.
Oh, okay. So Reggie, you wanted to address some of the challenges?
Yes. Good evening, Mayor and Council. As the city administrator was beginning to say about earlier this fall, it came to our attention that there are some data transfer delays, particularly in the UTC area, where people will use their apps to pay Park Mobile, but it takes some time for Park Mobile, longer than anticipated, for the Park Mobile data to upload to our passport enforcement package. And so to that end, we've had some patrons who were being cited for actually violating because the data had not yet transferred. We are working with both Passport and Park Mobile on that to get that down. It is a problem that we're learning is not uncommon in some other areas, that it has happened before, but we are working with the vendors to do that. The mayor and council asked for some background on that, which I was happy to supply. And thanks to Gary Bullis, our parking supervisor, who pulled that information together. And if anyone has been impacted by this, please notify us either by phone or at parking@hyattsville.org, and we will, if you submit your citation along with your proof of payment, we will be happy to process that and rectify the situation accordingly. We look forward to being able to give you an update as soon as possible. But again, the two vendors who are working with us are in touch with each other and with us to help to rectify the situation.
Yeah, and UTC seems to be a little more impacted because there are some Wi-Fi challenges there. So that's what we learned about that one. So we'll keep everyone informed as we move through that. And then we had a lot of great things happening over the last couple weeks. On this December 7th, we did the Shop Small, Taste Big. Once again, a shout out to our Community Business Economic Development team. But that was primarily in the Arts District right here and in Queens Chapel. And so we had a lot of businesses participate. I know we saw a lot of you out here that are online, and it was just a fun day and an opportunity for people to go into our businesses and shop and taste. Okay. All right, and then we had a winter market. That was just this past weekend. This was really important to, once again, the Community Business Economic Development team, specifically Renee Harris, Chrissy Humbert, and Jeff Ulysse. It was very important because we wanted to activate that area. We wanted to start letting some of the people that we're working with on the bids see how this area could actually bring people out and how people do want to spend time out in the University Town Center or Hyattsville Crossing area. So there were some artisans present. You can see some of the things that happened. There was entertainment. So very well attended and a fun event. Okay, and then Winter Wonderland, there was a tree lighting that was last week, 2 weekends ago as well. And so you can see some of the fun pictures from that. We are going to be working a little more with the community so that we can continue to make these events as inclusive as possible. There were a few delays in getting a few things out, like the menorahs and things like that. But we're going to work with the community because we really feel like we can, we want to do everything we can to just make sure that all of our kids are able to participate in the events that we do in the city. Shop with a Cop was just last week. Oh, and before I move on, I do want to give a shout out to Community Services and to Shakira Luamar for planning the tree lighting, DPW as well. All right, on Shop with a Cop, that was just last weekend, Saturday, this past Saturday. We had over $9,000 in donations, as you can see, and our officers were able to get out and take 60 children shopping. And of course, the police department had a bunch of other departments in and around the community, in and around Hyattsville, participate, including Metro Transit and the Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms. So we're excited that we had so many participants once again this year. All right, we had some partnerships as well. Crossover Church, you know, we did a lot for our community. Did a lot to give back to other community members. So on the same Saturday, Crossover Church partnered with us and did a big event in our multi-purpose room. And they not only gave out bags, as you can see, of toys to the children, but they also had clothing for adults and shoes, socks, hats. So we're going to continue working with them to make sure that we are able to provide our families with the things that they need, particularly during this time of year. All right, and Youth Cooking Clinic, another partnership. They hosted a cooking clinic with Chef Carlos Castros. And so you can see how many kids were there. There were quite a few, 26 that participated and learned how to make pizza. And in Wellness We Thrive, that was the closing ceremony for the art classes. That was a partnership with the Hope Center for Wellness. And they had an 8-week wellness class and a cohort, and they do plays and shows and things like that. So they had a really good time. So we thank Community Services and the youth, our teen center, our youth and teen center staff. Life Stories also came to a close. That's another great program that our youth center staff work with our community on. And upcoming programs. So you can see we have the mental health workshop and we have the Battle of the Lights. The Battle of the Lights we do every year in December. So don't forget to nominate your neighbors if you love their light show or their light display. And then mental health workshop, that's a newer one. And that's just kind of, you know, maintaining wellness and a little bit of balance and, you know, during the holiday season. So we appreciate Community Services for hosting both of those events as well. And just a reminder, cold weather. So we just need everyone to stay involved and be you watch for your neighbors. Their temperatures are getting colder. There are warming centers all throughout the county. We'll continue to publish those. And so there's a list of some of the warming centers here. And we just want to make sure that if anyone knows of people that need shelter, please make sure that you call Prince George's hotline. That's at 888-731-0999. All right, weekly offerings. We've got the Zumba fitness class. That's on Wednesdays, 4 to 5, right here in the city building. And committee meetings. The only one coming up is the Race and Equity Task Force. You know, that slows down during the holidays. So we just have one coming up. And then some other upcoming event, the fresh produce distribution. In Wellness We Thrive, I mentioned that. There was a date change for the older adult outing. That's the Festival of Lights that they go to at Watkins Park in Upper Marlboro. So that is now going to be this Wednesday. Battle of the Lights, I've mentioned that earlier. A care partner support group. Early dismissal camp day. That's going to be on Friday. They're going to get out early, so we will have a camp. Age-friendly work group meeting is on Friday the 20th, and teen exploration program session is on Friday, December 20th as well. There is a note on here that just reminds everyone that we will be closed on Christmas Day and on January 1st, New Year's Day. Okay, and I think we're just about there. A few other upcoming events that I may not have mentioned. Invasive removals is going to still happen on Saturday. New seated winter camp I mentioned, and new seated yoga class on Monday. Youth winter camp on December 26th. And let's see, another youth winter camp on Friday, December 26th. Youth winter camp on Monday the 30th. So what you may notice here is when we have these youth winter camps, our youth services staff work throughout the holidays so that they can give some of the families and parents an opportunity to still work if they need to. We also have the seated yoga class. I mentioned that one earlier, and the Battle of the Lights also mentioned. That's the voting, though. That's going to be on Tuesday the 31st. That's when we're going to pick the winner. And let's see, Free Movie Monday on January 6th. And I think that's it. That is it. Happy holidays. We do want to wish everyone a very happy holiday. We won't be back in this form until January 6th. So this is our last opportunity to just say to all of you that we do hope that you enjoy family and friends and have a great time this holiday season. Mayor and Council, that's all I have, unless you have any questions for me. I'm going to stop sharing. Yep, there we go.
Thank you, Ms. Douglas.
You're welcome.
Any questions? Questions or comments? Mr. Solomon.
Thank you. I heard you mention for the Park Mobile that there was some Wi-Fi issues at UTC. Is that the actual root cause, or are we still investigating a root cause?
Am I unmuted? Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay. Yes. So that is. We're not prepared to say that is the main cause. That is a factor. There could the main factor is between the two companies that they're not quite set up the way that they need to be in order to sync with one another. But it's a little bit more complex in UTC because and apparently you'll notice this even if you try to connect to your Wi-Fi outside of UTC, the data connection speeds are a little bit slower in that area, and that's been kind of like our test observation, and this is what the company is saying, but it's not there. It is not the only thing. The main problem is the interface between Passport and Park Mobile.
Okay. So,
and it's really odd because it only appears to be about a 15 to 20 minute delay, but in that time we have seen some challenges. So they're working hard to try to fix it, and they know that this is urgent for us in our community.
Okay. I would just like to, can I request to be included on those discussions so I can get a better technical understanding of it?
Sure.
Thank you. And then crime. So I saw the crime. I think the crime reports that we subscribe to from City Data. I think at some point we started reporting our information to City Data, and residents were told that they could subscribe to receive regular City Protect. I think that's what it's called, City Protect. This week it said that we had 65 more crimes this week than we had last week, and it looks like a lot of those were I guess the general term will be burglaries or property crime in wards 2 and 3, if I think is accurate. I just want to know, is that actually what we are seeing, or is there any activity that we're taking or actions that we're taking to look into, is this coordinated, or should should we have additional discussions in the communities around what's going on?
Jared, are you online? Councilmember Solomon, I'm not sure if Chief is online,
There he
but
is
with the
now.
mall and the holidays. Oh, okay. Jared, would you go ahead and respond?
Yes, ma'am. Can you repeat the question?
The City Protect crime data that we encourage residents and council members to sign up for, it reported that in Hyattsville there were there were 65 more incidents this week than over the last week. And a lot of that looks like it's burglary and residential property crime. And it looks like most of it is in Ward 2 and Ward 3. Not to say that there were a couple of other incidents in other wards, but that's what seems to be a lot of it. And I was wondering, are we monitoring that? Is this an accurate? First, is this an accurate reflection? But secondly, are we, what actions are we taking, and what actions should council members take to have conversations in our communities around any of those concerns?
Yes, I'll have to take a look at the crime report to dive deeper into that. It's broken down by ward, as you mentioned. We do see at this time of year, we do see an uptick around the mall and in those wards and in the shopping areas in general. Same safety tips we talk about this time of year, basically every year, and that's to make sure that folks are not leaving gifts out in their vehicle when they're out shopping. It's ordinary to go in one store and leave stuff in the back of your car to go into another store. So we do see an uptick in theft from autos, and we have seen an uptick this quarter in commercial burglaries, but residential burglaries, I'm not tracking that right now. Have not seen an uptick in in residential burglaries. But again, this is the time of year that folks try to take advantage. So keep your packages, if you can get them delivered to a neighbor's house or something like that, because we do see an uptick in package thefts throughout the year, this time of year. And also when you're going to ATM machines, things like that, be careful to be aware of your surroundings, not to take your card out and use cash in a dark area, try to park in well-lit areas, things like that. So it's just really thinking ahead, looking out for one another. If you see something that's out of place, let us know, but I'll take a look at those stats and can send something to Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Chief. Is
Yes,
that
sir.
good, Mr. Solomon? Okay, Mr. Hubbard.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Ms. Douglas, for the presentation. I think Mr. Solomon's question did trigger one in my mind regarding Park Mobile and passport. Are we the only city or the only jurisdiction where these two app has to interface? If not, what is it like in that area where they do interface or interact?
Okay, no, we are not the only ones. However, most other jurisdictions of our size and larger, they use Park Mobile's enforcement services which correspond with Park Mobile's app. Okay, we are in the minority in that we use one company for we also use, those who pay by Passport don't have the problem because Passport talks to our enforcement software. It's one and the same. Where we're having a problem is the interface between Park Mobile and Passport. Although they have worked together in the past, they are not, those two interfaces for some reason have difficulty or have had difficulty connecting with each other. There are a ton of parking apps and there are a ton of parking enforcement mechanisms. It just so happens that the two that we use independently of each other, they have to work harder to get better speed. They do ultimately connect, and we say as long as 15 minutes. It's actually about 9 or 10, which is longer than what we need it to be. But when we have our enforcement folks who are on the ground on the street all day long, a lot can happen in about 10 or 11 minutes between the time someone pays and the time someone is flagged for a citation, particularly in an area as congested as UTC or along Route 1. The good news is that we have time to work through it, and we are pressing our vendors, particularly now that we're in the free parking period during the holiday season. We would really like to get this resolved while no one else will be impacted over the next couple of weeks.
Thank you, Mr. Regis, for that. So it's not like we're not the only jurisdiction where these two software interact. Are other jurisdictions where they are interfacing also experiencing the same thing?
Okay, from what I understand through and again, my hats off again to Mr. Bullis. If you take a look at the email that was sent, there is data behind that, but this does have these interfaces do have delays. So we're not the only place where it happens. It just so happens that because we are a relatively small jurisdiction, if we have the number that we've had, which I believe is 48 since we started, 48 is a large number for a city like Hyattsville, but 48 would not be a large number for a larger jurisdiction. It would be a smaller percentage. So the people who are impacting us, our patrons who are impacted, the number is higher because the percentage is higher because we're a smaller jurisdiction overall.
I want to follow up on that, but I think, okay, I'll come back to that one. The other piece is, how did we miss this piece here that Passport and Park Mobile did have this challenge of compatibility?
Well, if you recall, it wasn't entirely missed. When we first started talking about implementing Park Mobile to begin with, this was one of the issues that we anticipated might be a problem. This was one of the issues that we brought to council initially, is that we use Passport, but we want to implement Park Mobile because the patrons were requesting it. So one of the issues that we knew coming in was that there might be an issue between using enforcement app from one company and payment app from another company. So we did bring that up, but we wanted to go ahead and implement it because at the time, obviously, we didn't know what the impact would be or even if there would be any, but we were aware that there was a possibility that this would happen, and it has showed up, and we're working to try to resolve it. But you have the actual hard numbers in front of you to kind of see exactly where we are. Not at all saying that that's an acceptable number, but it's where we are based upon the data, and we want to go down from there.
Okay, thank you. Going back, should I finish or should I let someone take over?
Yeah, go ahead. Hurry up.
Okay. Going back to the numbers in terms of the 48 from Hyattsville, I think you mentioned that could be seen as a high number because of the size of the city. I think it's proportionate, right? If it was a larger city, that number could also be larger because of the number of users in the case. But if that's not the case, then we go back to what is that underlying issue? Is it the internet? Like if it's the internet, is it just Hyattsville issue?
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me offer a bit of a more detailed explanation. In the process of researching this, we found out that the primary issue is the two companies interfacing. Okay. However, when you look at where the violations are generated, they are higher in the UTC area, and there's a way to dig through and kind of look at those times and see what the issues are. And it appears, and I put appears in quotation marks, it appears that there's a larger data delay in the UTC area than it is down, say over here on Route 1 or other issues. And it may be, again, may in capital letters, the belief is that the data transfer speed in UTC is slower. And it could be because of the buildings, the building height over there, where the meters are, how it's generated. I don't know. I could speculate on that. I don't want to do that. I don't want to do too much speculation in an open meeting like this. I'll just say that according to what Park Mobile is reporting and Passport is reporting, that there are higher, the delays are a bit higher in UTC than there are in other places. But again, the underlying issue is that the two systems need to work harder to communicate with each other in a more timely
Real
way.
time, in real time, yeah.
My final two follow-up questions, and I will be quiet. One, do we have data comparing what is the percentage of customers who are using these two apps at UTC to make the payment versus using it along Route 1? So kind of like seeing whether it's a UTC problem or is it because we have a higher usage just in UTC of the two apps versus what is being done over in Route 1. And
The
then
short answer, I'm sorry, go ahead.
the last question I was going to ask is, if these two apps are already in use by other jurisdiction at the same time, I would assume that they already have a know-how to fix this because Hyattsville wouldn't be the test ground for them. But how come that is still kind of like a new thing, a new challenge? Thank you.
Okay, so the short answer to your question is yes, there is data. There are subsets of data to support all of the data that was given to you in the email. So if you would like that drilled down, we'll be happy to provide that to you. The second thing is, yes, there are examples where they have worked together. Every jurisdiction is different in that, and perhaps Councilmember Solomon or those who are more technical can probably help me to say this a little bit better. But every jurisdiction, every area has a different connectivity profile, so to speak. And so they may well have fixed the problem or better with the problem in larger jurisdictions where there are more IT. Forgive me if I believe I am saying it wrong, but in areas with a high concentration of internet connectivity, there's less of an issue where this happens, and it's more it's more in our area because the connectivity issues are a bit more sparse and it's more noticeable. At least this is what they're saying. But again, the overall problem is that the two companies need to work better to get themselves connected, and we're working on getting that done. And my goal, again, is to have this completed by the time we are out of our free parking period, or at least better improved.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Solomon has something else to say here.
Sorry, just while we're on this subject, I know we went with Park Mobile because residents have requested Park Mobile, but at the time we had the question of could we use Park Mobile on the enforcement side, and I thought it was because of where we were in the contract with the other software that's why we decided to do both. And I think at that time we knew that there would be the challenge of getting the two to work together, but we were given confidences that would be overcome, which it was, but we weren't, we didn't know that once we got it to work together that there may still be issues with communication. So I guess what I'm wondering is do we still need to have two softwares? Can we, when does the other contract come up?
Okay. Good questions. And if you recall, it wasn't just the issue of the contract. It's the purchase of equipment. It's the purchase of all the stuff that goes along with Passport. So it's not a matter of just entering a new contract. We are not budgeted this year to purchase new enforcement equipment, new tag readers, all of the things that go along with going with a different company for enforcement. So so yes, we can. I believe we can accomplish the goal. And I believe that we were very correct to respond to the residents' request to say they want Park Mobile, and we now have Park Mobile. And when we look at the people, the number of people who've had incidents, while any number is too high, and this is indeed a higher number than what we'd like to have, we are lowering those numbers as we continue to improve. and I'd like for it to be an actual seamless transition. The fact of the matter is, it will never be totally seamless because it's not totally seamless in any jurisdiction. You always have those interfaces. What we want to do is improve it to the point that we are at a satisfactory level, and that we are responsive to people who have those issues, which we have been. Anyone who comes to us with proof of payment that they paid passport, we are sorry for the inconvenience that they have to go through, but we have no problems addressing those citation issues.
Okay, I think Councilmember Hobb and myself were trying to ask the questions to keep you from Councilmember Redmond's raft, but I see he's raised his hand, so I'm gonna shut up.
It's over.
Probably because we use the word UCC, but go ahead.
Go ahead, Mr. Redmond.
No wrath, just smiles and questions. I think in light of all that, and I don't know if forgive me if I didn't hear it, is there an expected timeline when this will be turned around? And if there is, please share it. But if not, simply, can we just keep the meters free over here until this is resolved? It just doesn't make sense that we would ask people to pay to park, and then when they pay, they can run into maybe getting a ticket. I get we can email and do all of that, but it just doesn't, it seems like an extra step on someone who didn't do anything other than pay to park. So I would think until it's resolved, can we just keep it free on the meters? That would be my request.
Yeah, so we'll give an update at the end of the month, and just let you know what we found out, and then we'll talk with you again on that, and as well as the XCOM, and make some recommendations. We are just as disappointed, and it is extra work on the staff as well. So we really are trying to figure out how to best resolve this, and again make it simultaneous. But with Park Mobile not having backdoor software, or us not having that software, I think it makes it more challenging. We'll also pull Councilmember Solomon in on this with his background in technology, see if there's any ideas or anything that you can offer, Councilmember.
Thank you. And just while I have it, just unrelated, just want to thank everyone who worked on the winter market over here at UTC. I thought it went really well. It was exciting to see people out and about. So kudos to everyone who was involved. I don't want to name names because I'll forget someone. And we had several residents and just people who came through stopping and saying, please do more of this. So I want to shout that out. That
Great.
activating the space was a good thing. So thank you.
Great.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Redmond. Mr. Howard, you want another bite of the apple here?
Yeah, in terms of suggestions, I heard Mr. Redmond's proposal about making it free while the city figure out what to do. Another idea to consider is also for the city to be more proactive. We know that we're talking about 15-minute delay, or 15-second, 20, I don't know what it is.
15 minutes.
15 minutes delay.
Well, it sounds like it's
minutes.
about 9 or 10 now. So they're closing the gap a little bit through this process. I think it started at about 15. It's now about 9 or 10. And we thought about maybe just like circling the area, waiting 10 minutes before so we've been coming up with all kinds of suggestions.
Okay. So that's one, having that agent just circle the area after a few minutes to make sure that that was actually paid and be able to void that. If they walk away from the area, for city staff to be able to reconcile those citations at the end of the day or the next day to see which citation was issued but it was actually paid, instead of letting that sit out there and for the resident to be the one to take the initiative to contact and try to challenge the situation. What if a resident doesn't challenge it and they try to go ahead and pay? Is that citation already voided in the system, or are they still able to pay? So those are things that I think we can do to minimize. Thank you.
I'm sure.
Absolutely.
Okay. Mr. Solomon, did you have one more thing? We're trying to move on.
I apologize. I just so that we didn't talk about it during the update, but just since this is our last meeting for the year, can we get a just a brief summary on ARPA so that residents and council members know that I think the reason why we're not getting an update is that we're good with closing out based upon the last motion that we passed to do the swap things around between CIP and salaries, but I guess a final verdict before the year is out.
Yes, Ron is not on the meeting tonight, and we actually did initially plan to do an ARPA update. When we last presented and got approval to move this, we said we'd provide quarterly updates. We'll probably do them a little more frequently, but we do have that on the agenda for the January meeting. But all the funding has been moved over, and most of the projects rest in DPW. All of them have some level of status update, so we will bring that back on January 6th. But we are continuing to work through all of the projects that were ARPA funded. They are now in the CIP, and so what we have is a new chart that will just show the status in the CIP and label them. They'll be labeled as prior ARPA projects. Chief came back on because he also wants to answer your other question that you asked regarding crime.
Thank you, Tracy.
If that's okay. Mhm.
Yes, go on.
Thanks, Mayor. So I took a look at the stats that Councilmember Solomon referenced. So the 65 incidents was the total incidents for last week, and just beside it, it says up one incident from that 65. So Mayor, can I show my screen real quick?
Yep, hurry up.
All right, so you see it says 65 up one incident from last week. And of those 65 down here at the bottom, 19 of those are proactive policing, which are like officers calling out with their signal 18s. So when our officers check on our commercial establishments at night, they call out with that. So that's capturing those 19. So we basically just one incident up from last week with 34, the property and theft incidents there, the 34 being down 9 incidents from last week. So I hope that answers that question. So we have not seen a major increase from last week or related to violent crime. You can see with violent crime, there's been no changes.
And you can also see that they're working really hard. There's a lot going on in and around our community.
Okay, thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Chief.
Thank you, Mayor.